Thank you very much. My name is Brian Dempsey from WIT. I have a couple of different hats on, I suppose. First of all, with Paul Elliott and Brian Monaghan, we're going to talk about the BIM Collective Research Group. You'll see our poster there in the back, and the work we're doing with that. I also lecture on the Architectural and BIM Technology Programme in WIT. So I think a lot of what we're talking about and stuff that Alan spoke about earlier, the challenges that are ahead of us and that we've been battling against for the last number of years, we're trying to address those here in WIT, both at an undergraduate level, at a research level, and also in the BIM regions. We're part of the southeastern BIM region, and for the last number of years we've kind of amalgamated with the southwest and the southern region. So Ted and Paul and Tim and Tralee, we're trying to bring all of that together. But one of the things that we really want in that is for this to be, that it's not just about what's happening within the IT. We want this, it needs to be collective. So we want to link more and more with industry. So rather than us kind of saying, well, the topic is going to be, and this whatever talk is going to be, that we've got a greater partnership with industry, and that there's a greater discussion as to where those meetings, the directions those meetings should take, etc. And I think there is a collective responsibility here that we can all come together, and together we can progress an awful lot more efficiently than we have been, perhaps. So just from the BIMC perspective and from WIT's perspective, we started using BIM authoring software in 2007, and we've been kind of fighting the good fight, if you like, since then. In 2013, we formed the BIM Collective Research Group, and it had a number of goals, really. And the slide will move. So basically it's a suite of integrated services, conjunction with core programs of Irish companies and public bodies. They include education, CPD, training, consultancy, research, and user group meetings. These are basically the courses that we're offering on both at undergraduate and also through our training centre. So we've got the Architectural and BIM Technology Programme. So it is essentially an architectural technology programme, but delivered through the medium of BIM. So if BIM is a method of communication, where we're using BIM as a core principle in terms of being able to communicate ideas and teaching students from day one in first year to be able to communicate through a three-dimensional medium. We've also got a higher diploma in BIM, which we're hoping will be available through Springboard this year, and Springboard has been opened up significantly since in other iterations of it. We've got an Autodesk Authorised Training Centre, so we run regular courses in Autodesk software, and those are continuing. We've got one running at the moment, a night course in Revit Architecture and Revit MEP and Revit Structure, and we'll be running many more of the courses over the coming year, both night courses and different iterations of 3-day courses. And of course the BIM Collective Research Group that's down here. I suppose part of it, a lot of what we do is looking at different fields, looking at different fields of interest there, BIM authoring tools and standards and methodologies. As I said, we've got the training centre, we do some thermal bridging and general thermal analysis, and part of the energy processes that would be connected back into the BIM process. Immersive technologies, VR, AR, and Paul and Brian will talk more about those, high definition drone aerials, photogrammetry, and historic building information modelling. What you see going on in the background, it's a research project that we did on a sandbox. So that's effectively a box of sand, using AR to model what's going on around that. So by manipulating the sand, you can see the contours and so on. So you can make it rain and see what will happen as things go. So you can use that. You can overlay drawings onto that, and it will modify how things go. So just looking at research funding, and this going back, I suppose, to what Alan spoke about earlier, if we're to progress this process, there's got to be some initiatives for it, and the work that Alan has been doing and CETA have been doing is absolutely phenomenal. Much of the funding that we have used is through the Enterprise Ireland Innovation Voucher Scheme. So for any of you that are not familiar with it, it's effectively a €5,000 voucher available to SMEs There are a certain list of conditions on that, but ultimately the only cost to the company is the VAT, and that can be claimed back. So essentially you're getting these projects for free. There are 3 vouchers that can be applied for, so 2 of the standard €5,000 vouchers and a third 50/50 voucher. So whatever the company puts in, Enterprise Ireland will match that up to a value of €5,000. So effectively there's €20,000 worth of research there that's available for a cost of €5,000. So in terms of an initiative, I think that's fantastic, and Enterprise Ireland have been absolutely fantastic in the promotion that they've been giving to BIM. There are also then innovation partnerships, which are, there's a more involved process in getting that going, but the funding is significantly higher. There's local commercialisation funds, competitive start funds, and then of course Horizon 2020, which generally tends to be more European, but significantly higher funds available. So if anybody is interested in talking about the innovation voucher process, really one of the reasons that we began this process and this research group back in 2013 was we've been speaking to a lot of industry and practices. We're saying, look, we've heard about this BIM thing. We're not entirely sure what it is and we don't know where to start. So the idea was that we would help, and using Enterprise Ireland funding to help with the process. In often cases, it can be a hand-holding exercise. In some cases, we've got companies that come in that have already begun the BIM journey, and we're just helping them to kind of focus and where we're going. And Alan mentioned earlier that very few Irish companies have got an R&D section, nor they may not have the resources or the time. So effectively, we become that R&D centre for that company and for the course of the project. So we would decide on what the scope of works would be for the project. We would sign a contract on that. We'd decide on a delivery schedule and the process, and we just carry through. So it could be that there's a certain amount of BIM authoring, there's a certain amount of BIM processes leading on into BIM, up to BIM level 2, and so on. And Brian and Paul will talk more about what those processes are. We have our BIM Lab here up in the main campus in WAT in C27. You're all more than welcome to come visit us there. We'd love to bring people in and show them what we're doing. And effectively, this is an integrated process. We're doing this in order to share anything that we're learning. We're bringing it back into our undergraduate. We're hoping that our undergraduate students are coming through with any information that we're getting from this process. And it is all linked in to industry and industry collaboration. As part of our Architecture and BIM Technology program, we also have work placement in semester 5. So our students now will be going out on placement in about 2 weeks' time. So again, they're bringing the things that we've learned out into industry and hopefully bring back lots of other information to us. So on that, I'm going to hand over to Paul. It's Paul Elliott, and as said Brian, we're all members of BIM, the BIM Collective Research Group. Thanks, Paul.
Hi lads, just 1 second now. Yeah, I'm just going to show you some of the recent events that us as the BIM Collective have gone out and done with companies in practice, showcase events that we've been at. I'll just start off here. The first large one here with Brian. He's down at the Self-Build Expo down in Mill Street, Cork last year. The girl that's modelling here is modelling the HTC Vive that we have ourselves in office. Brian is going through a Revit model, I think at the time, a BIM model, just demonstrating the workflow through it. He's going to talk a bit more, but we'll get on to it later. The centre picture there is myself and Gordon Chisholm. Gordon is a founder member of the BIM Collective there with Brian and Robin Stubbs. I should actually just say a little bit about myself first, if I got to say that there. My name is Paul Elliott. I'm a qualified carpenter by trade. I returned back to college as a victim of the recession, basically. I'm a graduate of the Architectural and BIM Technology programme, and I'm working with the lads there the past 3 years. So the amount of stuff that I've actually learned in the last 3 years, taken from the actual technology programme, has been invaluable to me. Brian is from a completely different background, and he'll go through that as well with you. But just to set the picture there, myself and Gordon, we were up at the Kilkenny Biz Fest just to showcase ourselves to the lads there. So that was mainly kind of hotel-based people that we were talking to, and see what process we could actually develop up with them going forward. Top right-hand corner there is an architecture firm up in Dublin, Dennis Bourne Architects, who, like Brian was saying earlier, had a BIM process already in place. So they asked us would we come up and kind of work through with them and how to develop up their BIM methodologies, from having template in place and see if is their template correct, is there any way that we could kind of streamline it for them, and then develop up from a Revit Essentials kind of teaching platform to a Revit Advanced for their BIM modelling techniques and collaboration between themselves. And another one there to the top right, or top left-hand corner, which ourselves is St. Kieran's College in Kilkenny. We use that as a hub for a lot of lads that might be travelling down from Dublin or might be travelling from different parts of the country. So we kind of meet them a little bit, that they don't actually have to come down to Waterford, that we can find it's a great little room to actually work in. And we we had about 6 different companies, from engineers to architects, in the last workshop that we had there. I started a Revit Essentials course with the lads before Christmas, and then we completed Revit Advanced there recently with them. One or two of the participants of that workshop is Kruger and Lyons. They're based in Sandyford in Dublin. Kruger and Lyons actually were a great company to work with through the innovation vouchers, that they're relatively new to the BIM concept. Leon is a South African national, Leon Kruger. He had actually worked as through BIM projects in South Africa. But what he would like to do when he came back here was apply through the innovation vouchers. He knew nothing about it. It just happened to be a chance meeting that they started talking, the lads, and decided that he'd go for an innovation voucher. What they basically wanted to know is what was the best way to start off their practice to get BIM working through it. So they're looking to employ graduates that they'll have a base template done for them, and then they can work through their company. So it's great. They're basically a clean slate at the minute. It works great with a company this size, where you're trying to, a lot of people we found out already that have a BIM workflow, that they're a bit kind of touchy. It's like Johnny might own it in the corner and he doesn't want you looking at his template, but they come around. That's the whole idea of it. You know, it's a hard process. Everybody needs to be working collaboratively. Not Johnny that has his own process and he doesn't like to share. So that's what we're kind of trying to work through that workflow with him as part of the vouchers. Just in the bottom left-hand corner there, Brian kind of spoke about it earlier. We are an ATC, so we're an authorised Autodesk training centre. So that allows myself and Brian and a couple of lads there in the office as Autodesk training instructors to enable the lads to get certified. So whether it's Revit, MEP, or structures, or architecture, we'll develop up a workflow with them and get them certified in that. I'm just going to show you here, the next slide. Actually, part of the innovation vouchers there, this is Blanchfield Heaton. This is our second voucher that they applied with us. The first voucher, they wanted to get an MEP, they're an MEP-based company. They wanted to get a template created for them. So they wanted to learn how to Autodesk, Revit, MEP, and then bring that workflow through to their own practice. So just going on from that, they've looked at scan to BIM methods. So this is, I don't know if anybody's come across, there's 2 of them in the room here today. It's like a BLK 360. We worked with Willie below in the corner here, just actually it was Monday, wasn't it Willie? Down in Wexford Primary Healthcare Centre. It's just been built at the minute. It's not far from actual completion. But Blanchfield approached me through their voucher and asked, could this be a process that we could look at? Developing scan to BIM, bringing it back into Revit, and then putting in their actual as-built model to see what it'll actually map with that as-built that's there in reality. So Willie kindly came down and offered these services to us with the BLK. So I was going to say if anybody's seen one before, but you can go over and touch them now afterwards. They're great. They're a great process from what I've seen from Monday. How quick and accurate they are is unbelievable for such they're expensive to an extent, but they're cheap at the same time. I'm sure you can actually get a good lot of work out of what they cost. 18,000 quid, is it? 18,000. I'll go through some of the software and stuff with it. Brian was delighted to get his hands on it there. You might see by the picture there. So this, I'm just going to show you a little video of the created reality capture. So this it's done through Recap, Autodesk Recap 360, Recap Pro. That's the program that you actually need for it. While we were going around setting up the 360, it's done through an Apple iPad. So we can actually see the process of the scans as we're going through. I don't know if John, if you're doing a little bit later on it. But yeah, it's how fast and accurate. It takes about 4 minutes to scan. Willie just put the scan up, or put the scanner up. It takes a 3D image as it's going along, as well as recording the data. So while it's processing in the background, you'll hear a bing, and then you can actually look at the real view of it, so the real world view, and you can do a 360 view from that, and then it registers the scans together. So it's only a process then when you get on to the next, when it goes bing, set up a new project or new scan, let it off again, then you can see if they merge. So it's
just need to watch the time a little bit.
Yeah, sorry. So I'll just play the video here. So this is us all done within Recap, this video. There is a little bit of post processing with it. Takes a little bit of time to actually register the index files for it. And at the minute, as I said, this is a rough draft from Monday, so we're just going through, kind of cleansing it a bit and removing some of the point clouds from it. But to get, he wants an as-built model to be replicated from this anyway. So he's just going to go into his 360 views, have a look, knows where each work, a lot of his pipe work has been put in there. So he has that record for himself. And then he has the added bonus then of actually bringing it into a BIM model and putting in his own pipe work. And as he said to me, a lot of the actual systems that are in that the heating tanks and cylinders and stuff, they're already created as Revit models, as Revit families. So he said it's only a case of drag and drop and put them in there. So I'm going to bring you on to an excerpt from that. This is an image just taken from Autodesk Revit where he brought the point cloud into it. He's actually coming down to me this evening there where he has his as-built Revit model, and I'm just going to link it in and see if it actually aligns together as well in it. So another voucher that was done here was through aerial photogrammetry for DHB Architects in Waterford here. They want to record the bank building. It's on a Gladstone Street just down the road here. As a means of digital recording of it. They were asking us, was there a workflow that we could develop up for them just by using the drone? So we went out, done a couple of aerial flights and then a couple of actually ground control pictures as well, and brought them into Recap again. And now from that then, there was a program called Remake at the time. It's actually Recap Photo now, where you can create the model as a 3D mesh. But from that, they wanted then to bring it into Revit and make an actual Revit model from the actual scans there. So we worked up a process of doing that through that workflow for them. As Brian said earlier there, with Monaghan and manufacturing, we're finding a lot of actual vouchers that they want their product to be created. So just one that's ongoing now at the minute is Harcas in Wexford there. But they want to develop up their BIM objects for the English market. So I've created a lot of bollards, benches and stuff like that. And what they're getting out of it is an actual data sheet as well. So they're bringing it into the manufacturing process as well. As part of their families, then they want them to be UK BIM level 2 UK compliant. So there's COBE parameters added into that as well. So it allows them to be able to market themselves in the UK. So that's where we're finding with a lot of families that we will create them for BIM level 2 compliance as well. I know we're kind of going for time, so I'll hand over to Brian there.
Thank you very much, Brian. Lots of Brians.
There are lots of Brians. My name is Brian Monaghan. I work with the BIM Collective as well. A little bit of history about myself. I actually don't come from an architecture background. I come from a computer game development background. So I'm more into BIM visualization instead of the BIM process itself. So I'll be covering VR and CGI in the next few slides. Back last summer, Self-Build approached us to do an article on how an architectural practice could develop VR for their clients. With it, we looked at the brief history of VR and then the price points of the software and hardware needs and how a practice could actually implement it in their practice. I'm going to show you some footage here. It's of a person using a HTC Vive. Unfortunately, it's 2D, but using the HTC Vive, you'll see it in stereo vision, which gives you a better interpretation of the actual model. With VR, it just gives a different way of relating to your clients, your vision of your project. Because a lot of people can't understand plans or perspective views of models. Giving them an actual experience of VR, they can actually perceive the model way more steadily and readily. This was done with a Revit model using an Enscape plugin, and then it was then relayed using a HTC Vive, which allows you to have a open space movement. You can actually walk between points in an actual HTC Vive instead of actually using a controller to move yourself around. So it's a different experience. The future of VR is about to change now in the next year or so. Windows has partnered with a number of companies to develop a Windows mixed reality headset. It's a lower entry point to the VR, but it has limited factors. It needs less graphics power to run it, but you're still tethered to a machine. The next step up from that is standalone headsets. These are dedicated devices which just do VR. They have 2 cameras in front of them that perceive your space around you and navigate you around that area. But they would be a mid-tier solution. When then HTC Vive are actually coming out with their next version of their Vive product, which will be a lot more high-quality VR experience. Now, a couple of years ago, we were approached to look at incorporating CGI into photogrammetry. Initially, we worked up a BIM or a process of a workflow for doing this. It was quite cumbersome, labor-intensive, and didn't produce the greatest results. This short video here, you can get a sense of what it is. To get this 7-second clip nearly took 3 days of processing, which was a long process. Then last year, Eurofins in Duncarvan are building a new extension, and they approached us to see if we could help them envision the project to their staff and new potential staff. So we took this opportunity to look at how we could actually use CGI better in the process. So in the video here, you get to see the raw footage of just the site we took with the drone to give an idea of the size and scale of it. Then we took the actual Revit model. We then placed it in context with the existing building, which gives a better sense of scale of the actual new facility and gave the clients and stakeholders a chance to observe the building. We then went a step further to actually give an idea of the actual scale of the building. So we have a slice plane coming up showing that coming from the ground up to give an idea of the room and scale of the facility. We then repeated this and give a plan view to show different interpretation of it again. So with the previous video, the 7 seconds took me 3 days. This took me 3 days to do all 3 videos. So it was a more faster and easier process, but still can be refined more. And that's where innovation vouchers and partnerships come in. People are looking for processes and we redefine it and develop it better for them so they can actually implement it. Just to finish that, we've worked with a number of companies through innovation vouchers and through partnerships and consultancy. And we're hoping to move forward from there.